Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. I'm your host, David Steele. I hope everybody is having a fantastic day, no matter where they are. And sorry about the late start time, guys. Thought it was going to be a quarter to one. Turns out it's 1 o'clock. Anyways, Pacific Standard Time, of course. Um, so I hope I'm reaching people, no matter where they are in the world. Anyways, we have a bunch of stuff to get to. Some of it is kind of um, the same story, but a little different take on the story. So we have like 5 or 6 stories. So let's just dive right in, shall we? So as everybody knows, this last week, we've had. I will before we do dive in, I have a couple of major announcements, but I will hold off until, or at least one major announcement, but I'll hold off until the end of the show. So, as everybody knows, there's this little movie that came out this last week, and it did fairly well for its opening weekend. And I'm referring to Fast X. Fast X has been, one of those things that has just everybody was looking forward to it, taking the, you know, uh, taking not only this franchise by storm, but just the movie theaters for this last week and everything else. It made a respectable $67.5 million and over $320 million globally. And we're going to be getting to a piece a little later on about how this might actually turn a profit. Even if it's a small one, it might actually turn a profit. And the reasons why it struggled. So, but before that, there's some bigger news here, and that is that Vin Diesel, okay, had come out and said that they're actually working on spin-offs, if you can believe that. So they're actually looking at female-led spin-offs. So this comes to us from Variety, and the headline reads Vin Diesel says Fast and Furious spin offs are in the works, including a female led movie. So, FYI, guys, anybody who's not seen Fast 10, this does have spoilers. So, I want to be explicitly clear about that. Please make sure you know that. I will put it in the description. There are spoilers in this article. Vin Diesel says spin offs of the Fast and Furious franchises are already in the works, including a female led installment. I started developing the female spin-off in 2017 with other spin-offs. And the sooner I deliver the finale, the sooner I can launch the spin-offs, he told me Saturday at the Charlize Theron African Outreach Project, CTAOP block party. Fast 10 is one of the first of a two-part ending, but it's, quote, bittersweet to think of it as a finale, end quote, Diesel said. In an interview on May 12th at the Rome premiere, he teased that the ending might be spread out over 3 films, and we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. Look how many characters and great talent there are in the movie, Diesel said of the possible 12th film. There is no way I could pull this off unless I had everyone in for 5 seconds. These characters are appealing, and we need to see more of them. Fast 10 features the shocking returns of Giselle, played by Gal Gadot, and Luke Hobbs, played by Dwayne Johnson. Diesel admits it wasn't easy keeping the cameos a secret. I'm so excited to have them back home and even more excited to see fan reaction to see how it happened, how happy it makes people. And we'll get to that in a couple of minutes too, because there is a whole other story behind that. Earlier on the red carpet, Fast X co-star Michelle Rodriguez revealed that Gadot had shot cameos for earlier films, but didn't make the cut. We had shot other things a long time ago that may not have fit that specific movie, the finale, Diesel said. Doing tags is a very tricky thing because you're great talent, but at the same time, you want to be very careful to maintain the same emotional state of your audience at the end of the movie. So that's what you're juggling. Rodriguez says she isn't sure if she'll sign up for the spinoffs. You pass the baton on. You take the back seat, she said. You go passenger side. When it comes to the next generation, you have to. It's the only way to let them define a future. Diesel and Rodriguez were among the 350 guests at the CTAOP benefit who helped raise more than $900,000 for the organization's work supporting the health, education, and safety of youth in South Africa. The evening included a performance by drag queen Lux and Selena Ititz. Unfortunately, Thea, Charlize had to bail at the last minute because she tested positive for COVID. Excuse me. The CTAOP block party held at Universal Studios Backlot was sponsored by Dior, CAA, Bloomberg, with additional support by Whispering Angel and Stellar Arton. Okay, let's talk about all this because there's a lot to digest here. Number one, the thing is that this is him speculating that he wants to do this across 3 films. Anybody who is relatively knowledgeable about box office stuff, and we're going to have a guest on tomorrow that does, and I will talk to you about that at the end of the show. The fact is that this budget ballooned to $340 million for a number of different reasons. This is barely, and I say barely, might turn a profit. Okay? Might turn a profit. If this does, it will be shocking. I cannot see this spread over 3 films. I just can't. Okay? Because number one, you're talking about budgets. Number two, you've got to talk about scheduling for everybody coming and being available for this. Number three, are fans really going to react? Or are they basically done with this? And I mean, this franchise has been going on now for 21 years, 22 years. I think people are kind of finished with it. If this was supposed to be the end all be all, and this was supposed to be a part one and everything else, it just didn't. It didn't work for me, at least. I mean, yeah, as I've said before, this is a turn your brain off, have fun popcorn movie. That's it. As far as Rodriguez not coming back, okay, I think, and this is just me, and I'd love to get your thoughts out there, guys. For me, she's a staple of this franchise. She was one of the 4 original cast members that signed up all those years ago. Okay, it was Vin Diesel, it was Giordano Brewster, it was Michelle Rodriguez, and it was Paul Walker. That was your core group of people. Everybody that has been brought in, okay, whether it's Gal Gadot, who's pictured there, or Brewster was one of the original 4. You have Nathaniel Emmanuelson, okay. Here you've got Charlize Theron. I mean, so the fact is that I think you have to have Michelle Rodriguez in order to make this work. You have to, because she is a vital asset to this whole franchise. And when she said she's not sure about it, I don't think this would do as well as it could if she wasn't in the picture, literally and figuratively. I just don't think so. The fact that he started developing this in 2017 is also interesting, okay? Because, that's when I want to say it was Fast 7 or Fast 8. It was one of those films that came out that year, okay? That being said, I think, look, I'm on board for this, okay? I am totally on board for this film, okay? I think they should have done this with the Avengers. That would have been a $1 billion film, but that's another discussion for another time. This could be a $1 billion film. My problem is, if you're going to develop this, okay, because don't forget, when he says I've developed this is his IP, okay? That's why he got paid $20 million for this role, okay? I will go off on a tangent. The fact that Rodriguez got paid only $2.5 million blows my mind. But beyond that, I don't think you can make this without her. I'll be absolutely and completely honest. I don't think you can make this without her. And if you try, and even if you get everybody back, I mean, let's say you get a Gal Gadot. Let's say Charlize signs on. Let's say Jordana's in. Let's say, you know, Nathaniel is in. Everybody's in. I don't think it works. It doesn't have the same gravitas because you don't have that core person there. And so I think it might be successful, but in the grand scheme, and then there's a whole other thing, villain and everything else, because you can't make this as just a standalone. You can't make this like a Hobbs and Shaw. You can't. You can't do it. Okay, even Hobbs and Shaw had their own villain, right? Um, I can't see that they're going to do this without Rodriguez. I can't. And if that's the other thing. I mean, this is another topic for another time, but it's taken this long that we're finally getting a female-led Fast and Furious film. This wasn't done 10 years ago. I don't understand it. Nonetheless, the fact that they are developing it, the fact that they are even talking about it now is good. Um, and I once again, I think if Rodriguez doesn't sign on for this, and even if you get everybody else, it's not as successful as it could be. Anyways, guys, what do you think about the news about Vin Diesel, developing a Fast and Furious spin-off for women? Do you think if Michelle decides to come back that it would be successful, or do you think if she doesn't come back it won't be successful? Would you go see a female-led Fast and Furious film? Who do you think the villain should be for this kind of film? Leave me your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so we move from one Fast and Furious story to another. So because of the box office that it had, um, it actually might, believe it or not, with the budget it had, it might turn a slim, tiny profit. And that's why I believe that when Diesel says, oh, there's going to be 3 more, no, there won't. There will not be. Because Universal is not going to invest that kind of money unless they see an ROI. Okay, return on investment. Okay, so we know that it might actually do well. It might turn a profit. So this comes from the Wrap, okay, and Jeremy Fowler, who I spoke to yesterday, and he is coming on tomorrow, guys. So we are going to have the special little announcement, if you will. Jeremy Fowler of the Wrap is coming on tomorrow at noon Pacific time, 3 Eastern, and we're going to talk about everything. This is not going to be a basic interview. This is going to be, we're going to talk everything box office. We're going to talk about the summer box office. We're going to talk about, what's coming up at the end of the year. We have a bunch of other things to dive into. But getting back to the piece for Fast X, he wrote this yesterday, and so this might actually turn a little bit of a profit. Despite its immense production and marketing budget, Universal's Fast X may be able to turn a profit after all. If it does, it will be the enduring international appeal of the Fast and Furious franchise to thank for that. In the United States, Fast and Furious is continuing its decline from a mid-2000s peak with a 67 million opening for Fast X, a launch below the 70 million that the tentpole's predecessor Fast 9 earned during the early stages of the box office COVID recovery in June of 2021. But overseas grosses were a different story, with a 251.5 million take from 84 markets, including 78 from China. That is a result of that as a result of being seen as a positive despite being down 42.5% from the 136 million Chinese opening of Fast 9 shows you how far Hollywood's fortunes in that country have fallen. Yet Fast X, nevertheless, has been the best Chinese opening of any Hollywood film so far this season. Outside of China, Universal reports that the overseas performance of Fast X is hit 79% of its predecessor, Fast 9. 38% ahead of the 2019 spinoff Hobbs and Shaw, and just 12% behind the $1 billion plus entry of Fate and the Furious. With a $340 million budget before marketing costs, and by the way, guys, they spent $100 million globally marketing this. There is still a very long road for profitability for FastX. But this weekend's $318.5 million global opening follows the path the film needed as it takes advantage of vastly improved theatrical markets to outperform Fast 9 rather, in key countries. Look at some of the top international markets show the improvement. The opening weekend in Mexico went from 10.9 million for Fast 9 to 16.6 for Fast 10, joining Furious 7 and Fate of the Furious among the top 5 highest openings in that country. India surged from 1.6 million to Fast 9 to a studio record 8.6 million for Fast 10, while Brazil did the same with a 9.9 million opening that was more than triple the opening of Fast 9. I think the goal is to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 million. That's what any tentpole relies on overseas needs to make, says box office editor Daniel Leroy. I think the big question is how long of the theatrical window Universal gives FastX, because the moment a pristine digital copy is released on demand, it's going to be pirated and take a bite out of its international legs. The next step for FastX is to keep that momentum going heading into the second weekend, where it may have a good chance at holding well in the United States with the Memorial Day weekend. Reception in the United States has been good, but not exceptional, with a B cinema score and audiences having an 82% on post-track and 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. In China, the film has a score of 8.9 out of 10, an improvement from the 7.8 of Fast 9. Along with the excellent open weekends, films like Fast 7 and The Fate of the Furious also had incredible legs in markets around the world. If FastX has any similar endurance, despite upcoming competition for The Little Mermaid and Transformers Rise of the Beast, it has a chance of earning a final theatrical run similar to the $760 million run of Hobbs and Shaw. That would still be short of the film's budget, but would still give FastX a chance to turn profit on demand and other post-theatrical revenue coming in. So he predicts a smaller final global total of $650 to $700 million. Turning a profit after a theatrical run isn't exactly the highest level of tentpole blockbuster success, but the good news is that Universal can take that with the pandemic in the rearview mirror, and Fast and Furious still has considerable drawing power worldwide. That means that the franchise's supposedly final installments could turn a theatrical profit if Universal can avoid letting the budget for the future films inflate the way it did for Fast X, with extra COVID precaution expenses, supply chain issues, and a costly cast. And I'm going to get to that in a couple minutes. How exactly Universal will bring Fast and Furious to an end is unclear, as it was previously announced that one more film in the series would be made, even though Diesel claimed at the film's premiere in Rome that 2 more would be made. We'll see about that. Universal has confirmed the plan for Dominic Toretto's final chapter, but given that a Fast and Furious finale would likely get a box office bump from audiences, curious to see how the 2-decade-long series ends. There still may be some fuel in Universal's long-running tentpole series, provided that it conserves fuel properly. Anyone would kill for numbers like Fast X, he said. It's just that when you add into the context of the budget and the past installments, that it doesn't look good. Fast and Furious is like a 38-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo. He's still knocking in 30 goals. Who are you going to put in that's better? What live-action franchise does Universal have that consistently makes that much money? Okay, let's talk about this, because there's a bunch of stuff to dissect here. Number one, he's right, okay? This is one of the, if not the biggest franchises that Universal has, okay? They did have the Jurassic World franchise, but that is no longer there, okay? So the fact is that this is, even if it does turn a small profit, Okay, and I mean small profit. I mean the fact that you may be even looking at $700 million is scary with a $340 million budget. Um, Now let me talk about some of the other things that were in the piece. So he touched upon supply chain problems, COVID restrictions, and but in salaries. So there's a lot of good news here. Number one, okay, that you're not going to have COVID restriction costs going into the next film. Okay, that's just not going to happen. Okay, unless you want to take the precaution for that. Okay, which you can, but I mean, it seems like we are all quote back to normal what it was. Okay, so you can eliminate that. That's a couple $1 million of savings. That's good news. Number two, supply chain problems. We'll see. I'm not too privy on those, but those could get worked out in a different manner, so you don't have the same repeat um, problems that you did for this film. And lastly, and this is what I want to really impose and touch upon, and that is um, the salaries. So the salaries for this movie, okay, it really, honestly, at the end of the day, okay, you're not having the the salaries weren't that much. So at the top of the food chain, because it is his franchise, okay, you had Vin Diesel. He made $20 million. Okay, fine. You had Jason Statham, okay, make $15 million for this picture. Now, I love to know the contract that he signed, okay, because I I don't know if it was escalating from the number of multi-year deals or whatever. Because for what he was in, and anybody who's seen the film knows what I'm talking about, there is no way he should have been making $15 million. There's no way. There's no way. Jason Momoa, okay, Jason Momoa ended up coming in third with $5 million. That's reasonable. Okay, that's reasonable. Okay, I mean he's been in the $1 billion film before with Aquaman. Now his performance was one of the best ones, if not the best one of the whole film. Okay, that's a reasonable salary. Okay, um, I don't know if he'll. We know he's going to be in the next picture. However, we don't know what his salary is going to be. Is it locked in for the next picture, or is it they're doing it one at a time? What blows my mind, what blows my mind unbelievably, okay, is that you have a that you have these three women, okay. Now Rodriguez has been with the franchise since the inception of it. We've spoken at length about that, okay. She got $2.5 million. That's right. I said that correctly. $2.5 million. This is her seventh film, okay, or eighth film. Okay, she wasn't in Tokyo Drift, and I think there was one other one she wasn't in. So, what blows my mind is she's been with the franchise from the very inception, and she's getting $2.5 million. Charlize Theron, okay, ended up getting $1 million. Okay, and she's been with the franchise for a couple. She's started, I believe. I checked out after 5, but I believe she came in around 6 or 7. Okay, and Jordana Brewster also has been from the very beginning. I don't know how these women are not making more money. I just don't. John Cena, okay, this tells you something. John Cena made $2 million. John Cena made $2 million for this movie. I don't get it. So when they're talking about budget, okay, and they're talking about cost, and they're talking about that. Look, at the end of the day, you have two people making $35 million. Okay? You have Momoa making five. Excuse me. You had $40 million right there. Everybody else, okay, from Rito Morano to, Helen Mirren to John Cena to Jordana Brewster to Charlize Theron, everybody made right around $10 million. And the thing is, now you could probably, I forgot about Brie Larson, who made $1 million. Okay. Now, okay, you are going to have, we're assuming John Cena is not coming back. Who knows? That all being said, you are going to have two big names coming in. Okay. So anybody who's seen the film knows who Brie Larson's character is. My guess is, and if I had to put money on this today, okay, you're going to see Kurt Russell back in the final film. They talked about how, Mr. Nobody is missing, this, and this. My guess is you're going to see him show up. You're going to see Kurt Russell come in, even if it's for a scene or two with Brie. And that's going to be that. The other big name you're going to have in this film, okay, and let's call it for what it is, it's The Rock. Okay? My guess is he is going to make right around that Statham or Diesel money. So immediately, he's already going to balloon this up. Okay? So you've got Diesel that's going to more than likely make 20 again. Okay? You've got The Rock, who is more than likely going to make at least 15, if not 20. Okay? Because you've got Statham, okay? That is probably, if we're going to align him and say, okay, he's going to make 15, right there, that's $55 million. That's $55 million. Now, let's talk about everybody else, okay? Rodriguez, if she comes back, well, she's going to come back for the last film. I hope she's going to make more than $2.5 million. We'll see. But let's put Momoa in there, okay? So you have Diesel at 20, Rock at 15 to 20. Let's call it 20. You've got Statham at 15, and you've got Momoa at 5. That's $60 million. Now, let's also take all the other pieces. You've got Gal Gadot, okay? You've got Jordana Brewster. You've got Michelle Rodriguez. You've got Charlize Theron, okay? You've got Nathaniel Emmanuel, okay? You've got Tyrese Gibson, okay? You've got Sung Kang, okay? And you have Ludacris. That's 9. 9 other people, okay? What do you think? Even if they each make $3 million, that's still 26. And by the way, I don't know. I'm guessing. That's $27 million. Now you're talking about 87. You go from your budget going from $55 million to $87 million. So it's gone up by a third. And you know they're not going to cut back on the CGI, okay, and everything else. I'm not even talking about Xena coming back, and he only got a couple million. So there's a little bit of a savings there. This next film, whenever it comes out, okay, is going to be, my guess is, okay, if they're lucky, close to $300 million for budget. Because 55, if I had to imagine, I would say almost a third of that budget is going to be salary. So it's really, to say this is going to turn a profit, barely, and he wants to make 2 more? No way. There is no way that they can actually do this and be profitable. Okay? I can't see it. And here's something else to consider, guys. We're not even talking about the writer's strike. This writer's strike, and I know it's the elephant in the room, but this writer's strike is going to, after this year, we're going to have a ton of stuff this year. Okay. We are going to have an absolute ton of stuff this year. That being said, okay, once 2024 comes, okay, it's going to start to slow down. And then everything else is getting pushed back. So, I mean, Avengers, I'm just putting this in perspective, okay? Avengers King Dynasty was supposed to come out May 2nd, 2025. There's no way that's happening now. There is no way that's happening, especially with the writer's strike, okay? You have all of these pictures. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Superman Legacy get pushed back, okay? That being said, this next film is not going to be in theaters, okay, until at least 2026. And that's if they're lucky, okay? Because even though you have everybody coming back, okay, you've got to write the script, you've got to do a mountain of pre-production, okay? Then you got to film principal photography, okay? And then on top of all that, you've got to do post. And post is going to take at least 6 to 8 to 10 months. So you're talking maybe 2026, 2027. There is no way, and this is why I mean it. This is why I said no way that they're going to make 3 other films. There's just no way. It doesn't make any sense. So, anyways, if it turns a profit, it will be very lucky. And we'll talk about this more with Jeremy tomorrow. Anyways, guys, what do you think about Jeremy's article about having this turn a profit? Do you think it could be profitable? Do you think if it isn't profitable, do you think they'll nix the other projects? Okay. Leave me your thoughts down in the comments and I'll get back to everybody. Okay. So now we're going to move on to another story. This one's not as happy as it could be. And so this first story, okay, so these next 2 stories are about Disney. And Disney is supposed to be the happiest place on earth, okay? And right now it's just not. They have gone through an absolute just, it's been very, let's put it this way, it's been very tough. It's been very, very tough. They've gone through an absolute gauntlet this year, okay? Between the whole Chapek thing, between the whole Victoria Alonso thing, between, everything else. And right now, Bob Iger has come back and he is trying to clean up the mess that Chapek made. And he doesn't want to be there any longer than he has to, if I had to imagine. Okay. So the reason I bring this up is because Disney has announced their next round of layoffs. Okay. So this comes from Deadline. Okay. And the headline reads, Disney begins 3rd round of planned layoffs. The 3rd wave of layoffs at Disney got underway today, sources tell Deadline. Rising from the early information, the cuts are estimated to affect more than 2,500 jobs across the board of the company, we're now told. While parks and resorts remain mainly in touch, the employee pink slipping this week isn't aimed at any particular division. We hear that television, which was hit hard in the 2nd round, is largely spared with a small number of layoffs. Following the timeline of cuts, Disney CEO Bob Iger confirmed in late March this is expected to be the last significant layoffs at Disney for a while. However, there may still be some smaller cuts in the next couple of months, sources say. The initial wave began on March 27th when Iger confirmed that the plan for 3 rounds of layoffs as the company looked to reduce its workforce by about 7,000 employees. The second wave which brought the largest and eliminated positions to 4,000 people, began April 24th. The company had said they expected the third round before the start of the summer. The new wave of layoffs comes as media companies are facing effects from the ongoing writers' strike, which is bringing film and television production to a halt. Disney revealed last February that it expected to cut $5 million and have cost savings as a result of the layoffs and other measures. ESPN Parks and Experiences and Products are the two other corporate divisions will see staff cuts along with entertainment. No frontline operational workers at the company's theme parks are expected to lose their jobs, however. And now that's the other piece I'll get to in a few minutes. Iger began outlining plans for downsizing soon, as returning as CEO last November. One targeted area for cuts has been the centralized distribution organization created by his predecessor, Bob Chapek. The company this week is starting to remove dozens of titles from its streaming platforms as a cost-cutting measure. Okay, let's talk about this real quick. So, essentially, what Iger is doing is he's cleaning up Chapek's mess. Okay, he has to come in and basically clean up his mess and take care of everything. And the thing is, this is going to this is not only hurting people's livelihoods, but it's one of those things where Disney just doesn't. They are not back to where Iger was at the height of his powers. Okay, running this company all those years ago, and it used to be one of the most profitable companies in the world. This is going to affect not only the immediate but the long-term future of Disney. Okay, so they are trying to combine, Hulu and Disney Plus together, and that's what the piece says about how they're removing some titles. Okay, and you're seeing that a lot, of streaming services across the way here. I mean, you've got Max that just launched yesterday. Okay, and that has a whole new bunch of content on it. Okay, and then there's a piece I'll be getting to later on in the show about Paramount and Showtime. So a lot of companies are doing this. They're trying to downsize. The good news is, if there is any good news here, that none of the frontline workers are going to be affected. And that is the big thing. Okay. So all of those people that are employees at the parks, Disneyland and Disney World, will be able to keep their jobs. And that's important to note. So I think that, it's going to be a tough piece of sledding for Disney for, I don't know, 2-3 years until they can get back going again, and, I think that he's doing all of these drastic changes, he being Iger. He's doing all these drastic changes because he has to, not because he wants to. And I mean, cutting the stuff on Disney Plus, I'm talking about the theatrical things, not making as many sequels. I'm talking about cutting jobs. I'm talking about all this stuff. He's in damage control mode. Okay. And, you just had that lawsuit against Chapek and a couple other people, come out a couple weeks ago because they lied about, the stock prices. And they basically told investors, we're going to be profitable in 2024. And it wasn't going to happen. And their stock dropped 12%. So he's playing damage control and he's trying to figure this all out. I'll be curious to see what happens. I mean, this is good news that this is the last round of layoffs. I would give this. I mean, we're not going to see this right away. I would give this until maybe not even the end of the summer, but probably more like the end of the year almost, September, October, because that's when you're really going to start to see things turn around. And by the way, they are no longer, making that project in Florida. Okay, that was going to be 13,000 jobs. Okay, and that's the number of jobs that they wanted to put over the next 10 years. So they're not even doing that project because of the whole DeSantis lawsuit and everything else. Disney is in a very precarious spot right now. A very precarious spot. They are one of those companies right now. When we look back at the end of 2023, people are going to say Disney had one of the worst years. I'm not talking about financially. They're always going to make their money. I'm talking about the amount of drama. As I said, between the Chapek firing, between the Chapek lawsuit, between Victoria Alonso's lawsuit, between trying to clean this up, between the job losses, they've had a very, very precarious thing. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but I'm glad to see that frontline workers are not going to lose their job. What do you think, Disney? What do you think about this last round of layoffs? Is it, you know, do you do you think that Disney needs to do another round of layoffs, or do you think that, you know, to try and absolutely save as much money as they can? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so we go from one Disney story to another, and as I just made mention in the um, previous article, in the previous story, that they're not going to be cutting frontline workers, and that's the important thing. Okay, so this comes to us from the THR. Okay, and the headline reads: Disney Parks chair says he won't be cutting frontline labor as part of the $5.5 billion cost saving measures. As Disney plans to enact $5.5 billion in cost saving measures, Disney Parks chairperson Josh D'Amato said his department will be making cuts, but will not eliminate frontline positions as part of it. What I will not do is cut any labor from the front line, D'Amato said. I want to make sure that our frontline cast members continue to serve our guests and create that true Disney difference. But there are opportunities to continue to look as we use technology in more progressive ways to save costs, to simplify the guest experience, and save costs along the way. Speaking at an investors meeting on Monday, D'Amato also touched on the news that Disney will not be building a new campus in Lake Nova, Florida, reiterating that this was due to the new leadership and changing business conditions. He added that the political situation in Florida has not yet impacted the park's business results. The executive said that eliminating plans for the campus has not impacted the $17 billion CEO Bob Iger, and has said that Disney will spend the money in Florida over the next 10 years. That $17 billion investment will include transforming Epcot, a new Star Tours attraction, and Tie-in's Bayou Adventure. We're thinking pretty aggressively about where we're going to take things in Florida, he said. On the news that Disney will be shutting down its Star Wars theme park Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel in September, which, by the way, guys, go back and watch that. I'll put the link down in the top right-hand corner. I did a whole piece about that. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. D'Amato said it was a pretty stunning asset and received one that from high ratings from guests. Now, truth be told about that, there were only 71 ratings on that. Okay, so it's not like there was 2,000 ratings or 1,000 ratings. It had 71 ratings from like TripAdvisor and Yelp and everything else. We did decide that despite the fact that there was a never before seen type of experience, and I think it raised the bar from a creativity perspective on where we can go next, we thought it was time to sunset the beginning in September, he said. It was losing money. Let's call a spade a spade. Okay. As well as Disney, as whether Disney may be interested in creating smaller parks in the same vein as Universal, D'Amato demurred. I think, it must be interesting for them. For us, we keep focusing on our core assets, and we should be spending most of our opportunity there, he said. Okay, so a couple things. Number one, um, the fact that you have. So first of all, let me backtrack a little bit. So his thing about closing that Galactic Star Cruiser, that was making money. That was making no money at all. So anybody who saw the piece I did the other day, okay, it was $6,000 for a family of four to go to that for 2 days. 2 days. So you checked in at 10 o'clock, okay? You checked in at 10 o'clock on a Monday. You had to be out by 10 o'clock on a Wednesday. Was it immersive? Absolutely. But anybody who, and by the way, like I said, I'll put the little tag up there in the corner. Anybody who has seen the rooms, okay, the bunks were extremely small. I mean, there was a man, probably my size, okay, was sitting on the ladder at the top bunk, could barely fit in there. It was crazy. Now I don't know if it was the whole room. There were other parts to it. I imagine it was, but still, there was a lot of problems with that. So when he's talking about the core things, he's talking about Marvel, he's talking about Star Wars, and he's talking about other Disney, your basic Disney products. Okay, um, you know, live action, if you will, live action animation thing like The Little Mermaid or Dumbo or The Lion King, stuff like that. So that's their core thing because at the end of the day, that's where they're making their money. I mean, sure, they're making billions and billions and billions of dollars from their parks, but those are billions and billions and billions of dollars too. So getting back to that though, I do like the fact though that they are not going to cut the jobs from the frontline workers because that to me, look, everybody needs a job. It's one thing to cut the jobs at corporate, okay, to save, I don't know, a million here or, a couple million there. It's another thing to have people lose their jobs. And I'm glad he came out. And by the way, it's fascinating to note, okay, because Chapek was actually the head of Parks and Recreation before he was tailored by Iger back in the day to take the job. So it's always interesting in that respect. But nonetheless, I'm glad that the frontline workers are not going to be losing their jobs because it's one of those things where everybody needs a job, right? Everybody needs a job. And if um, if you don't have a job, it's livelihood and everything else. And so I think that, it's tough to do that. So I don't know. I understand the layoffs. I get the layoffs. Okay. I'm, um, you know, I look, I don't like them. I understand them though. And I'm hoping by the end of, you know, the year that they're going to start to, and when I say they, I mean Disney, um, going to start to turn things around because they need you. And, you know, it's one of those things where this happens in every single sector. This happens in every single sector. So um, I think that's um, I think that's all that can be really said about it. So, anyways, guys, what do you think that the chairman actually said? The chief actually came out and said there will be no frontline jobs cut. Is that a good thing? Obviously, that's a good thing. Let me ask you this. How long do you think it's going to take Disney to actually recover from this? And would you like to see more smaller parks or more smaller theme rides based? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and I'll get back to everybody. Excuse me. Okay. So we go from that Disney. Okay. We're going to go into something else about Disney, but I think everybody's more likely to know about them. Superheroes. So superheroes have been around since the age of time. Okay. I mean, we can date these all the way back to, the earliest things of Superman to the 1966 Batman to, I mean, whoever your favorite superhero is, whether it's Black Panther or Iron Man or Captain America or Thor or Batman or whoever it is, superheroes have been around for a long, long time. And So it always fascinates me to when I read this stuff and how much people like this compared to other things. Okay, so this actually, once again, comes from the Wrap. Okay, and this talks about the superhero movie isn't dying, but something needs to change. It's been a decade and a half since the first Iron Man kicked off the Marvel Cinematic Universe in 2008, and 4 years since Avengers Endgame smashed box office records. But the pandemic disrupted moviegoer habits, and new heroes, Eternals, and villains such as Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania don't seem to have excited fans. The DC Extended Universe hasn't fared much better either, with Black Adam and Shazam Fury of the Gods. Are we living in an age of superhero fatigue? The numbers tell a little more nuanced story. Yes, we are watching a box office decline, but superhero movies remain highly in demand, according to Parrot Analytics data, which takes into account customer research, streaming downloads, and social media, among other engagement. The top 10 most in-demand superhero movies had a demand of 30. So here is going to be the chart I'm referring to. Um, no, not that one. Hold on, guys. Bear with me. Oh, okay. So this is the chart I'm referring to. Okay. So the 10 most in-demand superheroes have had a demand of 34 times than the average of the first quarter, a level reached less than 1% of the movies tracked by Parrot Analytics. And Guardians of the Galaxy just opened with a domestic box office of 114 million. So actually, when you look at this, it's a little fascinating because so you have Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, okay? You have Ant-Man and the Wasp. Okay, now Black Panther, what so Ant-Man and the Wasp was their most recent entry, the MCU's most recent entry, and Black Panther came out in November. So those are obviously going to be the highest in general. Okay. Um, that being said, okay, you also have movies like The Batman, which was released a couple of years ago, Spider-Man: No Way Home, which everybody knows made over $1 billion. It was a huge blockbuster for them. Zack Snyder's Justice League, and that's always fascinating because it's not the Justice League that everybody remembers. It's the Snyder one. Now, I watched that, okay? And, it had a couple of extra hours of footage. It was okay. It didn't blow my mind like everybody, oh my God, you got to see this. I mean, and that's cool. I mean, I'm glad that I enjoyed it, but it wasn't earth shattering for me. Then you had Thor: Love and Thunder, okay, which Mark, MCU property and whatever else. Joker, which is interesting because once again that's a DC elsewhere type of property, and the fact is that that is still one of the. I mean, we've always talked about who's the greatest Joker, who's the greatest Batman, but that is a completely different Joker. And the fact that it's still getting the plays, okay, is fascinating. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. This here, I think, and this came out a couple years ago, in the first week of May, right? A couple weeks ago, 2021. And the thing is that I think we were all taken by the name. Okay, they're going to go into the multiverse. But anybody who's has seen the picture, I mean, look, there were those out there that love it. When I saw it, I was like, hmm. Now, granted, I haven't seen it since, so I should probably go back and watch it again. I love Sam Raimi. He's done amazing work. One of the greatest scenes in that movie, creativity-wise, was the card scene and the musical note scene. It was just unbelievable. I loved it. That just shows you the creativity of him. Eternals, okay. I saw Eternals. I didn't care for it. I thought it was just too CGI based and everything else. It had a decent cast. I'm not saying that. You had big names like Angelina Jolie and others, just didn't work for me. And of course, Black Panther. I mean, that is a staple. That is an absolute staple when it comes to MCU. I challenge anybody. I mean, it is always in the top 5 to 7 films. I mean, look, it's the first film to get nominated for Best Picture from Marvel. That tells you something. It won multiple Academy Awards. Even if it was under the line, that tells you something. Um, so it's interesting how one is at the very top, but of course, I think that's more because of the recency effect, and one is at the bottom. So let's continue here. So it says, however, it's clear that movie events and specific characters can make a difference. In their first 45 days, Avengers Infinity War and Spider Man No Way Home had the highest demand among superhero films, which means that the audience was all about the reunion of the beloved characters. So this is the next graphic down here, the scatter plot, okay? And it's a little difficult to see, but I will break it down for you. So you have, okay, in the blue, okay, let me make sure I get this correct. In the blue is um, DC. In the red, you have um, Marvel. So what you're seeing here, okay, so what's exceptional, okay, now when they're talking about this, you got to remember, over here, this is exceptional. So it goes left to right, just like anything else. So you have films, okay, like Spider-Man No Way Home, like Avengers Endgame, like Infinity War, and Far From Home. Okay. Now, let me put this in perspective. Okay. Multiverse of Madness, okay, had Spider-Man in it. Okay. And so what ended up happening was, oh, well, I'm sorry, let me backtrack. It didn't have Spider-Man in it. Let me rephrase that. Okay. Let's start with Infinity War because I think that is the big one that everybody, once again, that's a top 5 to 7 MCU film. Okay. The thing is, A, it incorporated all of your favorite characters. Okay. B, you had Doctor Strange in there. Okay. It was a continuation. And, C, for Endgame, look, it was a combination of almost 15 years of pictures. And I think that's difficult to duplicate. So you're always going to have that. And Far From Home, don't forget, when Homecoming came out and that was a success, which made over $1 billion, not that that's the end all be all, you knew that the next picture, Far From Home, was going to do well. So that's where it's exceptional. Now, the outstanding portions, okay, now we've got a lot of the outstanding. You've got Shazam, you've got Black Adam, you've got Joker, you've got Guardians of the Galaxy, you've got the Avengers. You have all of those films. Okay, that's where 85 to 90% of your pictures are. Okay, now don't forget this is from Q1 of 2018 to Q1 of 20. So this is 5 years of pictures. You're talking about 20 or 30 pictures for both. And then of course you had the good, which was and really average was Shazam: Fury of the Gods, which just got released. Black Adam, which really barely made it there, and Ant Man, and I believe that's the last Ant Man. So I mean, it's interesting now that those pictures, the last 3 or 4 pictures of superhero films, actually are just starting to do it. So let me finish the article real quick, and so it says. If we analyze the two studios' portfolios over the last 5 years, Marvel is in the lead. So this is the last. Um, this is the last thing, and there's some interesting data about this. Okay, um, Avengers Endgame had the highest demand during a time by a wide margin. The titles with the lowest demand in the period were the latest releases from both franchises, including a fresh approach. After a decade of blockbusters, the superhero movie is entering a new era of challenges. Although there is still strong global demand for the genre, new releases will bring something different to Battlefield will have to bring something in order for them to succeed. With a new phase of universes on the horizon for both, the next movies will be a crucial turning point for both. Okay, let's talk about this because this is extremely important. Okay, okay. Here's the thing. Now, the top three by global demand right after the post premiere. Okay, of course you're going to have Avengers: Infinity War, and the reason I say that is because at the end of the day, once again, all your characters come together. Okay, it was emotional. I mean, I can't believe it's been 5 years, and I went back and I did a whole retrospective of that. You guys can check out. Um, that being said, we saw Thanos. Okay, this was the first film that we got Thanos in. Okay, and that is because we had waited how long? Almost 7, 8 years to see him. Okay, and we waited 10 years from Iron Man in '08 to Infinity War in 2018. So, of course, it's going to, and of course, it did record numbers and everything else. So, of course, that's going to be 425,000, okay, among demand. And this is right after everybody wants to know when is it going to come to DVD? When is it going to come to Blu-ray? When is it going to go on Disney Plus? Because if they didn't get to see it in theaters, which I don't know how you couldn't, it's one of those things. And you got to remember something else. This is before the pandemic. Okay, it's only been the last 3 years since we have had films like No Time to Die, like I don't know, Tenet, like anything, all of the films released during, Fast Nine, all these films released during the pandemic. And that's when the window closed. So in 2019, okay, you still had a 90-day window for theatrical releases. Okay. You got to keep that in mind too. So there's, 45 days, of course the demand is going to be there. Okay. So let's take a look at the second one. Okay. Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, this was, okay, released in one of the films that saved the, cinemas and everything else. Made over $1 billion and everything else. So you have to understand something too. That um, you have to understand something too. That the reason why this worked, okay, the reason why this played so well is a number of things. And by the way, there were leaks for this. There were set photos out there that Andrew and Toby were going to come back and everything else. But the reason why this worked was number one, you had all of these other Spider, of all these generations coming back. Okay. Number two was a story. That was the main reason. We were finally coming to the journey's end for Peter Parker, up to Tom Holland Peter Parker. And the other two came in, and you had everybody come in, and it was nostalgic. Okay. Doc Ock and Green Goblin and, Jamie Foxx's Electro. And you had all of these different combinations. So you got everybody in there, right? And you're starting to see this more and more in film. Okay. Look at Jurassic World Dominion. They bring back Sam Neill. They bring back Laura Dern. They bring back Jeff Goldblum. Okay. Look at Top Gun Maverick. Okay. That first trailer. Okay. The film was amazing. I've seen it 3 times, but look at the first trailer. It had everything you wanted. It was all nostalgic, right? It had, you know, Maverick racing down the runway. It had the volleyball scene or the football scene. It had the great balls. It had all the nostalgic things. So that was another main reason why it worked. Okay. So there in itself. So No Way Home was going to be huge. Far From Home. Let's talk about Far From Home for a minute. Now, once again, like I said, sequels are always difficult to make. But once the first one makes $1 billion, okay, then at that point, you're almost guaranteed to make $1 billion in the third film. Okay, not always, but almost guaranteed. And that being said, it has to be the right story and everything else, and they did it. And those are your top three Marvel demand so like I said, Infinity War, so Spider-Man No Way Home and Far From Home. And it's interesting because I did a piece a couple of months ago. Spider-Man has now become one of the most popular superheroes, more than Iron Man, more than Captain America, more than Thor, more than Black Panther. So it's interesting to see. Now, let's take a look at the DC ones. Okay, so you have Joker, the Batman, and Aquaman. So Joker, okay, this was a completely different take on the character. Okay, Joaquin Phoenix, of course, ended up winning an Academy Award. Tom Phillips and company that ended up getting 10 plus Academy Award nominations. Um, the film was really good. It was really, really solid. And it touched upon a couple of different themes about it. Okay. Number one was mental illness. Okay. Number two is, an outside theme of it. I'm not saying it's the total theme, but following your dreams. Okay. And number three, it was a different take on the character. I mean, we had seen the Jack Nicholson one, we had seen the Heath Ledger one, we had seen, even going back to the television version, the Caesar Romano one. This was a completely different take, and that was so key. Okay, just like the next film we'll talk about in a minute, it was such an important thing, and that's why it was successful because people didn't want to see the same old thing. Now, if you're going to rank them, and everybody has different rankings, okay, I think everybody is going to say, for the most part, that Heath Ledger, his role, his portrayal as the Joker, will just top everybody else's, hands down, twice on Sunday. Okay, because it was the most grounded, it was the most graphic, it was the most just vile, maniacal take of it. Okay, so let's move to the counterpart of that. Okay, let's move to the Batman. So that is the second, okay, most in demand after um, the film. So that made $770 million. And guys, I want to be clear about this. This isn't all about the money. Okay, I'm just making points about this. So you have to understand that this particular film was so big for a number of reasons. Number one, okay, it's any major comic book fan, okay, will tell you that this is the trinity of DC. Okay, you have Wonder Woman, you have Batman, you have Superman. Those are the three major superheroes. Okay, for DC. So that's it. Popularity wise, is number one. Made $170 million opening weekend. Did 770. So number two, this was a different take on Batman. This wasn't George Clooney. This wasn't, Val Kilmer. This wasn't Michael Keaton. This wasn't, anybody else. This was a darker, this was a muted Batman. And here's the other key thing. We were just starting to figure out Batman. Even the first 5 minutes of that film is magnificent with the Nirvana song, okay? And we the voiceover, and even he's writing in a diary, and that closes and it says year two. So we're getting a year two Batman. He's still trying to figure out how to be Batman. Okay? He's still trying to figure all this stuff out. This is a completely different take than anything we'd ever seen before. Okay? So that's the second reason. Number three, Matt Reeves and his brilliance, what he did was he used little nuggets. Talk about nostalgia, okay? Going back to what we were talking about a couple minutes ago, talking about nostalgia, okay? Here's the thing. He was brilliant in what he did. He took little nuggets from everything and put them in to the film. For example, okay, anybody who has seen the film by now, okay, when he pulls up to the funeral, okay, what is the and I immediately caught on to this when I saw it. What does it look like? The 1966 Batmobile. Okay, that's the first thing. Number two, when we talk about nostalgia, when Alfred is going through the letters in the mail, okay, what do we see over in the corner? We see the statue's head, right? Anybody who's a fan of the 1966 show knows that's what they used to go into the Batcave. Okay? You had other little nuggets and Easter eggs spread across the film. So not only are you getting a brand new take on this character, Batman, who's a younger, okay, more visceral Batman, but you get all those added nuggets. And lastly, the last reason why is because when we're introduced to him in the first 10 minutes of the movie, we know that he is a much, much different man because of that subway scene, right? He walks in, the guys, the punks are there. Well, who is this guy? And you just hear the music, you just see the rain coming down, the feet, okay? And he walks up and he kicks the crap out of the guy. He kicks the crap out of the guy. And then proceeds in magnificently shot, okay? And you see the black and the lighting around and the silhouette, and he's just knocking the ever living daylights out of like 5 and 6 guys, okay? And it's that primitive moment, okay, where he's like, who are you? And of course, Michael Keaton, and he's like, I'm vengeance, and he's just like, oh shit. So it's a totally different take. That's why the Batman is number two here, and that's why it remains one of the best Batman. Robert Pattinson himself is not probably the best Batman, right? By himself. But because look, you had Michael Keaton, you had all these others. But when you put him in that manner, that's the big thing. Okay. And, forget about all that. Then you had, excuse me, then you had, not only like the Batmobile chase, and it was just a magnificent movie. And it's fascinating. When that came out, okay, I said that could have earned 5 Academy Awards, the nominations. Number one was Best Picture. I really, truly believe it could have gotten Best Picture nomination. True. Obviously didn't. Number two, I thought Paul Dano should have gotten an Academy Award nomination for the Joker, or for the Riddler. Hands down. Hands down. Number three, I couldn't believe Michael Giordano did not get a Best Score. He didn't even make the shortlist for Best Score. That was criminal in my eyes. Okay. Number four was the costume. I thought the costume was fantastic. Okay. And number five, the sound or the editing. I mean, really editing because of that whole car chase. Those are the five, and it didn't get one. I was blown away by it. So that is why the Batman is the number two film. Okay. And the last one here we have is Aquaman. So Aquaman, the reason why this is in such demand, and this is a different character. So yeah, let's talk about Aquaman for a minute. Number one, this is part of the whole Zack Snyder universe. Okay, so that's why this is a big deal. Okay. Truth be told, I've not seen Aquaman. So I've not seen the movie, but everybody that has said it's a fabulous movie. Number two, speaking of Jason Momoa, he does the film very, very well. This is a standalone film, don't forget. So standalone films, when you have a group film like the Avengers or whatever, and then you do solo projects, they're going to want to see their favorite character all by themselves. And so that's why. Am I a Zack Snyder? No, I am. I am a Zack Snyder fan. I do. The Justice League movie was okay. Okay. I liked Man of Steel. Man of Steel was a very solid entry into the Superman zeitgeist of films. I love 300. The graphic, way he did that was fabulous. I saw Watchmen a while ago, so I'd have to watch it again. But I am a Zack Snyder fan, and it's not that I'm not one of those say, "Oh, I hate Zack Snyder" or whatever. You know, no, I enjoy his work. I think he's a great filmmaker. I'm excited for Rebel Moon, yeah. And the thing is that it's one of those things that because Zach doesn't talk a lot, because Zach doesn't do a lot of press. I mean, he does some, but and the other thing about you got to understand something too, okay? He owns Rebel Moon, okay? He owns Rebel Moon. He didn't own all those characters from the Justice League. I mean, yeah, he went back and he did all the alterations to it to make it what he wanted, his vision, but he owns all and everything of Rebel Moon. And I think that when you, and that's a big, big thing. And Netflix is letting him do whatever he wants because he knows he's going to be a draw for him. So, but getting back to Aquaman real quick. So when you have solo projects, you see everybody, and then you have a solo project. If it's your favorite character, you're going to watch it more and more. Excuse me. So, and of course, it's one of the few films, when we talk about DC films in general, okay, we talk about Aquaman, we talk about, all these other movies. This is one of the few films, Wonder Woman. We see this is one of the few films that does very, very well. And hence it's up there as the number 3, okay, most watched video on demand after. So I'm breaking all this down for you guys for a couple of reasons. The reason I say this, okay, is because the article talked about, are we having superhero fatigue? And the answer is no. And the reason being is this. When you look back at Marvel, okay, and you say, well, they haven't put out anything good recently. Now, I'm going to talk about Guardians in a minute. You take a look at their last 4 films, okay? I'm not talking monetarily either. Let me make that clear. I'm talking about just in general. You've got Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Now, that was an impossible situation. Truth be told, that was an impossible situation. Okay. So you had Black Panther Wakanda Forever. You had Thor Love and Thunder, which for me didn't work. The story didn't work at all. Not only didn't work, it was lazy writing, it was cheap. Yeah, there were a couple of gags in there that worked, but the story itself, and by the way, I know Mighty Thor is a huge part of the Marvel thing, but the way it was done was lazy. It was truthfully, I don't know why she needed to do that, or they needed to do that for her. It was almost like Rachel McAdams in Multiverse of Madness. Why did she come back? It didn't make any sense. Okay, so that's the second one. Okay, then you take a look at Multiverse of Madness. Now that had a huge opening. Okay, $187 million, went on to almost make $1 billion after the fact. It didn't work for me at all. I think Chadwick's passing through an. Oh yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely, it did. Nobody saw that coming. But what I will say is this, though: there were only a very few people that knew he was sick. Okay, there were only a very few people, and Kevin was one of them, because he knew. Okay, not only did his immediate family know, but Kevin Feige knew, because my guess is, and I don't know this to be true or false, I have no inside information on this, but my guess is that he wanted him to really be a part, even though that was more of a time travel movie. Endgame, I'm talking about, that he wanted to be really a part of it. So when he was going through his chemo and everything else, that's why um, he said, okay, we're only going to give you a couple of scenes here. So, and then of course, um, what happened was truly unfortunate, and we all miss him dearly. So I totally agree with you. It really did, because if he's in Wakanda Forever, it's a completely different movie. It's a completely different movie, and I don't know if we'll ever find out if there was a version with him in it, if he hadn't gotten sick. Um, but back to the point, though. So that is the third film. Okay, Multiverse of while it did well, it started. Okay, most of that movie was made overseas. Yes, it finished with almost $1 billion, but it did have its problems. Okay, for example, I mean, just the whole, America character. I just how she was introduced. I didn't care for it. Why was Rachel McAdams in the picture? It did. I mean, and the final film is Ant-Man and the Wasp, and the Ant-Man and the Wasp. We, we finally see the big bad. They were trying a different approach in Kang. Okay, now I had not watched season 1 of Loki, but I knew of him, and so the big thing was this: why are you having this major big bad who was supposed to be the big bad, excuse me, of this whole phase be in an Ant-Man movie? Didn't make sense, because Ant-Man, who I would claim is a secondary character. Okay, he's not a Thor, he's not a Captain America, he's not an Iron Man. Okay, and you're putting this guy, this big bad, in this guy going up against this little character, figuratively and literally. Okay, in this little movie, it didn't make sense. And then the ending, and I'm not going to spoil it, so anybody who has seen it knows what I'm talking about. But the ending just didn't work, and that was a major problem for me. So all of that being said, um, when Guardians comes out, they're like, okay, Marvel really needs a win, and you know, Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014 was written, directed by James Gunn, was a fabulous movie. I think elevated them from a C level character to an A level character, because it had emotion, because it had the team element, because it, you know, was all of those other things. It was written beautifully. Volume 2 was good. It wasn't great. Okay, it was still good. It had the gags, everything else. But Volume 3 just was a completely different animal, literally and figuratively. It touched on so many different emotions. Okay? Did it have its problems? Yeah, it had its problems, but it was still impactful. And when you see a movie make, as much as it did opening weekend, okay, and then have the staying power the second weekend, $60 million, and it only dropped 50%. That's huge, huge. And then it makes 32 to 33 million last weekend. Wow, this is what Marvel needs. Okay, this is what they should be getting back to, and they're not going to. I mean, this was the final thing, and they have a lot of questions moving forward. They really, really do, because they have a lot of different properties out there with a lot of different sequels teased, and nothing going toward the big bad. So that's the whole long and short of the article. I went into a very winded analytical thing for every single phase of it because it's necessary. Um, Anyways, what do you guys think of the article and the numbers? Okay, do you think that those hold true, or have you watched any one of those 6 films on their respective streaming services multiple times? I know I have. I've seen Infinity War 3 times on Disney Plus. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so we go from speaking of streaming services. So we are going to go from one actual thing. Okay, we're going to talk about the um, we're going. Bear with me. We're going to talk about streaming services now, but they're now combining. And so, as I made mention earlier, a lot of these streaming services are starting to put together all of their different assets. So, for example, Disney Plus with, you know, Hulu, and then you have, Max putting all of their stuff on there. And now um, there's one more that's doing that. Okay. And that's Paramount Showtime. So, Paramount Plus is one of those streaming services that everybody, I don't say everybody has, it's cheap enough that everybody should have. And I mean, I had it at one point and I had to cancel it because um, there we go. I had to cancel it because basically I was trying to save money and everything else. But that being said, um, it it really didn't have all of the same things that I really wanted. So that being said, this is an article that was written by THR, and it talks about Paramount Plus raising the price as it adds Showtime in its sets launch date. The Paramount and Showtime bundles now have a launch date. Paramount says that it's going to launch its new Paramount Plus with Showtime service on June 27th, bringing Showtime's programming to the main Paramount Plus experience. The new tier will become the cornerstone plan for Paramount and will cost $11.99 per month, up from the $9.99 currently at the top tier for Paramount Plus, but on par with the other current Paramount Plus offering for Showtime. However, Paramount will be raising the price for its Essential plan, which will not include Showtime content. That plan will cost $5.99 per month moving forward. It currently costs $4.99. Paramount also offers Pluto TV, its free ad-supported streaming service. Despite the pricing changes, the company's suite of streaming offerings remains competitive compared to others. Max, for example, which launches Tuesday, had an ad-supported tier that's at $9.99 and an ad-free tier at $15.99. Netflix's ad tier starts at $6.99 with its standard plan at $15.49. The price hike has been expected ever since Paramount announced its intent to merge Paramount Plus and Showtime earlier this year. The most premium Showtime programming will now live along the broad Paramount Plus originals like the Shared Universe, Nickelodeon content, and live sports through CBS. Executives at the company also teased the hikes in a February earnings call. The company says it's going to sunset its Showtime app and will rebrand the Showtime linear channel by the end of the year. A rebranding that will bring some Paramount Plus programming to its paid television offering for the first time. Paramount has been merging the Paramount Plus and Showtime teams since January, with Showtime hit by layoffs in February. From Yellow Jackets to Your Honor, Showtime is home to big, premier, sophisticated series, which are now complemented by broad blockbuster originals and movies in the alignment of Paramount Plus with Showtime, said Chris McCarthy, president and CEO of Showtime MTV Entertainment Studios and Paramount Networks, in a statement. Together, Paramount Plus with Showtime will provide customers a much more rewarding experience on our vast set of unique originals and deep library of iconic shows and hit films. This summer, Paramount Plus will officially become the streaming home for Showtime, further advancing our lead in being the total household service. Add Tom Ryan, president and CEO of Paramount Streaming. By integrating Showtime's premium and critical acclaim portfolio with the streaming service already broad and popular slate, all at a competitive price, We will solidify Paramount Plus as a cornerstone in earning. Okay, let's talk about this real quick. Look, Paramount Plus itself is nothing. Okay, it really, really is nothing. And I think that it needed a upgrade, a serious upgrade. Now, I have Showtime, okay, but I don't have Paramount Plus. I The thing is, Showtime is not that go-to um, pay per channel anymore. It just isn't. Okay. So even about going back 10, 15 years, okay, they used to have things like Dexter and Ray Donovan and, all of those other shows that you could really take a bite out of. And for the last couple of years, okay, now it does still has things like the circus and everything else, but it's not that, oh my God, I need to get Showtime type of thing. I mean, I literally got Showtime to watch the last season of Dexter. Okay. And that was it. That was the only reason I got Showtime. Um, I watched a couple of episodes of the New Bloods, but I never finished it. But nonetheless, Yellow Jackets is about the only thing, and there may be others. Yellow Jacket is about the only thing on there that really is okay. This is what I need to watch. Get Showtime for, okay, because I can't see it anywhere else. Exclusivity is starting to go the way of the dodo, because before, I mean, whether it was HBO with Game of Thrones or Cinemax with Banshee or Showtime with Dexter, those used to be exclusive. Now with everything merging, okay, you're probably going to see a downtick, if I had to guess, in people that are getting Showtime because they know they can get it on their streaming service. And it doesn't make sense. I'll pay a little bit, if I'm a consumer, I'll pay a little bit more for um, Paramount Plus, okay, so I don't have to get Showtime. That being said, too, there's something else to consider: more revenue, okay? Because when you watch um, Showtime on your television, okay, all you see is Showtime television. I mean, advertisements, whether it's for, I don't know, whether it's for Yellow Jackets, whether it's for Dexter New Blood, whether it's for the circus, whatever it is, that's it. And the boxing and the Bellator, I mean, that's it. Now with Paramount Plus and Showtime merging, you get a whole new thing of advertisements. You can put anything you want on there and it will be successful. Pretty much. So, I mean, you have to equate it to that. But the fact that you're able to get a whole other thing of revenue just from that is huge. And I think that that's a big thing that moving forward, I mean, because you're going to have films on there like Top Gun Maverick, Top Gun. I mean, the whole Paramount library is on there. Okay, Mission Impossible films and everything else. Um, and that's why they're starting to go off all these other streaming services because Paramount is starting to take back all of their IPs. So, is this a good thing? Yes, because they're all putting everything together. As far as a consumer, you're probably going to pay a little bit more just because you don't have to pay for advertisements. I'll be honest. It's one of those things where if you're watching television as it is, okay, whether it's a movie on show, I mean, that's the beauty. That's why you get a paper channel, right? Okay. So you don't have to deal with advertising. Okay. I mean, you take any movie, okay, forget about being edited for content itself, language, but you take any movie, okay, let's say you watch, and I'm just making it a movie up, let's say you watch The Departed, okay, now they don't actually have The Departed, so let's take another movie, let's take, I don't know, I don't know, okay, we'll take The Departed just for fun, okay, Casino, that's a movie, because it's on quite frequently. So you watch Casino, right? Let's say the total running time of Casino is, and I'm going to actually find that out because I want to be on the number for this. I think if I had to guess, I'm going to say it's about 2 hours and 10 minutes. Um, 2 hours and 58 minutes. Okay. So now okay, 2 hours and 50. So it's a 3 hour film. The TRT is a total of 3 hours. Okay. So let's say you're going to go watch Casino. Okay. Now, the fact is that you want to watch this movie all the way through without any interruptions. Forget about the content itself and editing, and you want to watch it all the way through. That being said, okay, if you have to, if you know that every 8 or 9 minutes that it's going to break for a 3 or 4 minute segment, that's going to run it close to 4 hours. Now, I did a little experiment. Okay, it's a little different, but I did an experiment a while ago. Okay, I put on Empire Strikes Back on Disney Plus. Okay, exactly the same time it was starting on television. Okay, I think it was TNT or one of those, something like that. I think it was TNT. So exactly the same time, and I watched Empire Strikes Back the same exact time. When I got done with that movie, okay, it was in right going into the. It was in the third act, but it was the scene where Han is being put into carbonite. That just tells you the amount of advertisement when you are watching on television. That was dragged out for almost 40 minutes because of commercials. But I watched the whole thing without commercials. The reason I bring this up is because people are not going to want to buy or get a streaming service without an ad tier. They're just not. I mean, look at YouTube. YouTube is a perfect example of now I have premium, okay, and I'm so glad I do. It's only $13 a month. But the point is, those people that don't have premium, anytime that there's an ad that comes up and they can't skip ad, skip ad, skip ad, skip ad, because they don't want to deal with that. So you're gonna get more people to actually buy the higher tiered service for it rather than not. Okay, because and that leads to a whole other conversation of how much is my entertainment budget. Am I better just going out to getting one of these movie passes like a Crown Club card or an AMC pass or whatever else, because I can watch first rate movies. um yeah, but as far as is them joining together, we're seeing this more and more. Okay, Disney and Hulu are doing this. You have Max doing this. Okay, they've totally rebranded, and now you've got Showtime. And this is the last one that's really, going to do this. So it's going to be interesting to see the numbers moving forward on how many subscriptions they get, how many people actually drop their Showtime subscription on their television or their cable box, and where they are moving forward. Because I think that if this doesn't work, they're going to have, by the way, they're going to have to probably give this at least a 6 to 12 month window. Um, then they might actually start taking some of this stuff off. I wouldn't be shocked because at that point, if they know people aren't watching it and they know all the analytics over there, okay, if they, because they only have so much room, so they want to put the fresh upcoming stuff first in front so you watch it, and you're having to deal with the UI, the user interface, and everything else. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Anyways, guys, what do you think about Paramount Plus and Showtime merging? Do you like it? Do you use Paramount Plus? Do you have Paramount Plus? If so, what are the things that you're going to watch on it? Do you have Showtime? Would you watch Showtime shows on Paramount Plus and get something without the ad tier, Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I will get back to everybody. Okay. So we have one final story for the day. And this story is, once again, it's about streaming and how streamers and which streaming service is doing this and why they're doing this. And it's a streaming service that I can honestly say that I will never get. I will never get the streaming service because of the way that it was touted, what the executives have said, and everything else. And that's Netflix. I'll never get Netflix. I mean, I honestly, truly can tell you from the bottom of my heart, I will never, ever, ever pay for Netflix unless I get, a gift card, getting me a subscription because of what their theatrical model, their CEO came out and said, their theatrical model, all the other baloney that's gone on with them and what they're doing. So, as we all know, okay, or you are pretty familiar with, Netflix came out quite a long time ago and they said that they are um, going to stop the profile sharing and the password sharing. So, this means that if you have a profile, okay, you can, if let's say you're a family of four, okay, you have mom, dad, Jane, and Joey, okay. It used to be that you only needed one account. So mom and dad would pay for the account, okay, and then Jane and Judy, or Joey and Judy, whatever, the kids would be able to watch on that one streaming service, on the one profile. Now, what they are doing, and this is clearly, clearly trying to make more money. The one thing that Netflix cares about is memberships. Okay. They want memberships. Higher memberships means higher revenue, means everybody's happy. Okay. What they are trying to do is they are trying to get everybody to sign up for Netflix. So, as it's going to be moving forward, you're not going to be able to put anybody on, but you will be able to put somebody on with the price. And this comes to us from the THR, okay? And this talks about, the headline reads, Netflix password sharing cracking down beginning in the United States. Netflix is bringing its password sharing deterrence to the United States. On Tuesday, the streaming giant began rolling out its paid share feature. Its paid share feature in the United States, which requires that all account users must be in the same household and live in the same location as the primary account holder. Users living outside a household will be able to join on the main account for an additional $7.99 a month, though standalone Netflix subscriptions begin at $6.99 a month for the ad-supported tier and $9.99 a month for the basic plan. As part of the rollout, primary account holders will be prompted to set a household location on their devices, though subscribers will still be able to use their accounts when traveling. Non-household members will be singled out based on the factors like how often that device has used the Wi-Fi at the primary location, according to a Netflix spokesperson, and be prompted to transfer the product to a new Netflix subscription. Primary account holders with premium subscriptions can add up to two new non-household members to their account for the $7.99 fee, while standard plan subscribers can add up to one outside member. The paid add-on feature is not available for those on the ad-supported or basic plans. The United States rollout arrives roughly 3 months after Netflix began its crackdown in Canada, New Zealand, Portugal, and Spain earlier this year. The rollout has already resulted in a larger paid membership base in like Canada, according to in Canada, according to Netflix Q1's earning, even though there has been a cancel reaction in each market, which impacts near-term membership growth, end quote, after the news is announced. As borrowers start to activate their own accounts and existing members add extra member accounts, we see an increased acquisition of revenue. For example, in Canada, which we believe is a reliable predictor for the United States, our paid membership base is now larger than prior to the launch of the paid sharing, and revenue growth has accelerated and is now growing faster in the United States, Netflix said in the letter. Okay, let's talk about this. They're just greedy. That's at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, okay, Netflix is just greedy, okay, plain and simple. And they want to get and squeeze every single dollar they can out of you. Not only are they going to make you pay for an extra member, but what they want, okay, what they're hoping you do, unless you're a single male or a single female, is they want you to pay an extra $8 a month so that you can put somebody else on there. So let's say, okay, by the way, as it said in the piece, you can't get this if you get the basic package. So let's say that you just want the basic package, okay? You can't add them on, okay? So more, they're making you pay every single, this is all the different ramifications for a number of reasons. Number one, they want memberships. We know that. Number two, there are a lot of older adults, okay, that aren't that technologically advanced. That, let's say their son or daughter has a Netflix account, okay. Excuse me. What they will probably try and do is they have to go get their own account, okay, which means that Jane X or John Doe is going to have to pay for that. Okay, now you can say, well, they will, take it out of their account. Sure. But at the same time, why? Why are you doing this unless you want more money? And people are not going to pay for ads. I just talked about this in the story previous. Okay? They're not going to pay for ads. So, of course, they're going to get the higher tier. And of course, they're going to add people. It doesn't make any sense. So, at the end of the day, all Netflix is trying to do is get more money out of you guys. That's it. It's all about memberships. It's all about, their stock prices, which, by the way, is about $350 last time I looked, and everything else. But they have so many other problems that this is what they have to resort to. It used to be 10, 12, 15 years ago, you could watch Netflix and there was no problems. Then they started making original films and series and whatever, and that started to cost them money. And the only revenue that they had was from their memberships. Okay? I'm a member from I don't have Netflix, but I'm a Netflix member. Okay. I only pay them, let's say, $9.99 a month. That's the only thing that they used to have. But when they started making things like The Crown and movies like The Irishman and all of these other original pictures, then they said, we gotta really do something here. We gotta get some more money in because we're paying out more than we're getting back in. And subsequently, what ends up happening is that they have to put an ad tier in. So they said, how can we create more revenue? Oh, I got it. Let's charge for advertising. And, I just did a story a couple weeks ago they are now starting to get more and more and more people with the ad tier because they don't want to pay for advertisements. This is just Netflix being greedy at the end of the day. And with a CEO coming out and saying, we don't support the theatrical window, and by the way, keeping Glass Onion in there for 1 week, okay? 1 week, making $16 million. And at the same time, they pull it out of the theaters, and the theaters are asking them, oh, well, can you keep it in for a few more weeks? And they're basically saying, oh, fuck you. We're not going to do that. We want our memberships. And even Ryan Johnson came out and said, and he signed a lucrative deal with Netflix. Had I known this, I would have pushed for more of a theatrical window for the film. I wonder, which makes me wonder down the road a couple of things. Number one, okay, is Ryan, because they're going to make it, the first Glass Onion film made a whole lot of money, okay? And the thing is that it was, I love Knives Out. I love Knives Out. And so it was, I actually watched Knives Out right before I was going to go see Glass Onion. Okay. It made $312 million. Okay. Worldwide. $312 million. That made $165 million in the States. It was only made on a $40 million budget. So it made its money back plus some. Okay. Glass Onion, okay, was made, I believe, and I could be wrong about this, I believe it was um, I believe it was an $80 or $90 million budget. Okay. So this says 40, but I don't believe that for a minute. I don't believe that for a minute. I think it was more of like 70 or $80 million. But the fact that they took it out of theaters, okay, and it, it made nothing. I just don't understand that. But Netflix is all about memberships, and they want your money, and they will try and charge you as much as they can for as long as they can before they say, nope, I'm done. And now now that you have people that are, because look, money's tough right now. Let's call it spade. This isn't like 10 years ago where the economy was booming and everything else. Money is tough right now. Inflation is hitting everybody, okay, including yours truly. So, that being said, not a lot of people, you're going to see cancellations and everything else. And of course, you're going to see more people come back, or of course, you're going to see more revenue come in because of they're going to sign everybody else up. Netflix just, I have nothing good to say about Netflix. And the way I would do it is, as far as the Academy Awards, because don't forget, guys, All Quiet on the Western Front just won 4 Academy Awards. Okay. And they turned around and said, well, theatrical isn't our model. I would basically say, look at Air. All you have to do is take a look at Air. Anybody who's seen that, and by the way, guys, you can go check that back, check that out on the channel too. Air was a perfect example. Okay. That movie has made $75 to $80 million. That has made its budget back plus some and that just hit Prime the other day. That's going to be profitable. Okay. When you have Apple and Amazon saying we're going to invest $1 billion into the theatrical over the next 12 months, and then you have somebody like that, Netflix, turn around and say, I'm not good. If I were the Academy, I would say, look, if you want your streaming movie to be considered for an Academy Award, okay, it has to be in theaters for 30 days. The window is 45 days. You don't have to keep it in the whole 8 weeks, okay? A whole 7 weeks. But it has to be in for at least 30 days. If it's not in for 30 days, I don't care how good the film is, you will not be considered. And if Netflix doesn't want to do that, then that's on them. But I guarantee you this, that the fact is that people, when I say people, I mean actors and actresses and directors and everybody else, they're going to want to have this in there. Because if they make the best outstanding film and it's not eligible, they're going to be pissed. Pissed. Anyways, Netflix, you know. Anyways, guys, what do you think about all of this? What do you think about the password sharing, the crackdown on this? Do you think this is a good thing for Netflix? Do you think this is a bad thing for Netflix? Do you have Netflix? And if so, would you actually put somebody on your account for an extra $8? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so we are done for the day. It was a big show, 6 stories. I mean, a couple of them basically were kind of overlapping, but they were definitely necessary to talk about. At the end of the day, you had a couple of stories like Disney and streaming, but they were all necessary to talk about. Fast 10. So, a couple announcements for you guys. Number 1, tomorrow the show is going to be a little bit different. So, we are going to have on Jeremy Fowler. And Jeremy Fowler is a reporter, box office reporter for The Wrap. And thank you, Deadpool. Why did I call you Deadpool? Thank you, Deadpool. So we're going to have on Jeremy Fowler tomorrow. He is a box office analyst, and he writes for The Wrap, which is one of the trades here in Los Angeles. Trades are THR, Variety, Deadline, The Wrap. So we're going to have him on tomorrow. We're going to talk about stories, okay? We're still, but this is going to be, it's not going to be a Q&A, and we're going to talk about how he got his start and everything else, but we're also going to talk about some of the key things, like, what's coming up in June. I mean, we've got a huge June slate coming up for you, okay? Here on the channel, in theaters, Across the Spider-Verse, Transformers, The Flash, Indiana Jones, all that. How are films going to do? Are they going to, what's going to happen with that? We are going to be talking about, when the strike might end, if it's going to end. He just put out a tweet the other day that he could see this lasting throughout the summer, and that's not good business for anybody. So we're going to get into all of that stuff tomorrow. So tune back in. It will be at 3 Eastern Time, 12 Pacific. That's the first thing. Number 2, guys, don't forget, we've got a bunch of things coming up in the channel. Not only you guys are getting the daily shows, but I am doing a Mission Impossible rewatch series. I just did Mission Impossible 2 a couple weeks ago. I'll be doing the third one, in the next day or two. Be sitting down to watch that. This is all going to be leading up to July 12th and Dead Reckoning. So we got that. Also, if you'd like to support me, we got Father's Day coming up in a couple of weeks. Okay. Head on over to the store there. Okay. We've got a bunch of cool things. We've got t-shirts. We've got sweatshirts. We've got hoodies. We've got mugs. Great gift ideas. And, they're cheap. And that's the thing that everybody likes. They're cheap. And at the end of the day, it'll help me out. Patreon. So there's another way you can help me out. There's 2 different levels. Okay. One is $5 and one is $10. $5, you're going to get Mob Mondays. You guys have spoken. It's the Untouchables. Okay. 1987, Brian De Palma, Kevin Costner, Sean Connery, Andrew Garcia, Robert De Niro. I'm going to, basically, I have all the notes down, do a stream, talk about that. $10 a month It's going to get you both Mob Mondays and Rewatch Wednesdays. This month for Rewatch Wednesdays, it's going to be Training Day with Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke. So stay tuned for that. So that's another way you can help me. Super chats, of course, anybody that drops in and, likes the content. And guys, I just put up a trailer the other day. I'm going to see if, because I'm going to see if I can't locate this. So, okay, here we go. So this is, I've been meaning to get this trailer made for a long time. And I spent a little bit of money. And when I say a little bit of money, it was only $70. But I tweeted this out the other day. This is for brand new people that are wondering what this channel is about and everything else. This is the trailer I'm going to have up for brand new people that have come into the channel. They want to know more about it and everything else.
In a world, there was one channel that had everything you needed when it came to stories about Hollywood and more. Welcome to Real Talks, a daily show hosted by the legendary David Steele, with special guests, a monthly series called The Perfect Movie, as well as coverage on every big movie released this summer. Real Talks is your #1 home for all things entertainment. So what are you waiting for? David Steele is about to get real. Real Talks. Subscribe today. You won't regret it. More movies coming soon.
The price of admission all by itself. $70. So anybody who comes to the channel and they want to know who this guy is, of course you know who he is. He does all of the voiceover for all the movies. So, anyways, that's a little added nugget there. Okay, guys, it's been going on for 2 hours already. Thank you for everybody that stopped by. Please, if you are stopping by, please hit that like and subscribe button. I want to get this out to the masses. Thank you, Dad, for sticking around. And that's it for today. The last thing I'll say is this before I end is I am putting up more podcasts. Okay, I just did a couple more yesterday. I'll do a couple more today. I'm in the middle of April right now. I'm trying to get all the way caught up. So it may take a little time. I'm going to be prioritizing some of these, like the Fast 10 one, like the Creed one, like the Air one. Air is out already. So, guys, stay tuned for that. Go to your favorite podcasting website, whether it's iHeartRadio or Apple or Spotify. Look up Real Talks. Look for the picture there. And if you can't watch the stream, or you want to listen to previous episodes, go back and listen to those. And you'll be helping me out there. Okay, guys, that's it for today. So do the 3 things you need to do. Be safe, be careful, and have a great rest of the day. I'm David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks. Bye-bye, guys.